right, welcome back to the Backseat Startup, where we give unsolicited advice to strangers on the internet. I'm Luke, I'm the founder of Startup Founder Daily, and today I'm joined by Allie Lawn. Allie is a partner and head of insights at Operate, a venture studio. She is also the founder of The Scientific Startup, which has really fantastic startup content and also offers consulting services. So make sure to check that out. Thank you so much for being on the show, Allie.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Great. So you know the deal. We will launch into Reddit, specifically the r/startup subreddit. We will find a question posed by a founder and we'll break it down. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. This user is asking for advice. They want to drop out, but their parents don't want them to. What do you think of that one?
Don't do it. I'm a professor. It hurts me to read this. Yeah, I mean, we can dig in here. I'm a professor of business at University of Denver right now. I've taught for, since 2015 in the university setting. So,
well, then your perspective here will be very appreciated. So let's do this one if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's kick it off.
Okay, great. I'll just read it top to bottom. I am 22 right now and still have 2.5 years left in college. Recently, I'm gaining traction through freelance work, and I made more in the past 2 to 3 weeks than someone with 2 to 3 years of experience makes in a month in our country. Wow, very cool. I do find uni helpful, but they just teach surface level things of broad courses under information systems. The upcoming 2 years will be the toughest and most time consuming. I worry I might not have time to do the freelance work. I learn my skills through Udemy, which is low cost compared to university. They tend to learn through hyper-specific and in-depth courses on specific skills compared to how long it takes at the university. I want to continue doing freelance, keep learning from Udemy, and eventually start my own thing. But uni really gets into the way. Usually 26 to 32 hours a week just for the classes. I open this topic up to my parents, but their beliefs are outdated. I also worry that I waste the next 2 years and will be 25 years old with no experience and nothing to show other than a piece of paper with my school's name printed on it. What would you guys do if you were in my spot? I'm really eager to hear the insights of people who have actual businesses now and those who went through almost the same thing. So what do you think of that? First, hear your general thoughts, and then we'll dig in.
I mean, I did 9 years of college and got lots of papers with my school names on it. I have a PhD, went through that. I actually did a PhD in Spanish and Portuguese linguistics. I now run my own company and work at a venture studio. So that being said, your education and the track that you've chosen, I was in the very formal humanities, I would say, not tech driven, not industry driven. You can make a transition at any point of your career. I think that's possible. Obviously, it takes some extra work. That being said, it sounds like this person's probably in more of a tech role, perhaps in engineering. I see like systems, maybe IT. As you're going out in the job market and you're competing in tech, there still is that barrier of entry that is the bachelor's degree. I don't typically recommend for people in tech to pursue graduate degrees unless they're really, really interested in something more research driven. If they notice there's a tangible benefit to having a master's degree, I would say go for it. But I do think even in tech and even this, it may be an outdated perspective, but it's still kind of the expectation to have a degree going into these roles. It adds a level of perhaps false credibility, but it adds credibility nonetheless.
Right. Yeah, I love that coming straight from the mouth of a professor. So a couple things based on what you said. First of all, can you elaborate on why you don't encourage more technical people to not pursue masters? Is it just the marginal reward on that?
So with entrepreneurship, there's kind of a balance to be had between having, the credentials necessary to have that founder product fit, which I think is probably more important than your product market fit at the beginning. You need to be able to solve the problem. So sometimes having, a higher degree, something like that is very helpful in showing like, hey, I'm the right person to tackle this problem. I've got a master's in computer science from Stanford. I know this stuff. That adds credibility. That being said, some of my colleagues that were in engineering fields and things along those lines were able to get jobs right outside of their undergrad. And they were able to start picking up that professional experience and that real world experience that would have been prolonged had they pursued a graduate degree. And in a lot of tech roles, especially the bigger companies, there's educational credits. So like, why pay for your master's or your graduate program? I mean, hey, if somebody could have paid for my grad school, I would have loved it. And knowing that that's an opportunity for people, you have a chance to get out there, see if you like the job, see if you like the industry, and then perhaps have help furthering your education down the line, should that be something that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Right. And plus the on-the-job resources and training programs will be so much more tailored than kind of the broader courses that you would do in a master's degree. So I think that completely makes sense. So in terms of dragging out the time so when you're in the workforce, what would you say if somebody suggested that this person drag out their college, spread it out over a longer time so they could take a lighter course load so that they could maintain the level of freelancing that they want to do?
That would totally be an option. I mean, most people, yes, they want to see that you graduated in 4 years, something along those lines. However, it is becoming more and more popular to see kind of students with non-traditional backgrounds. Some of the schools that I've worked at in the past have had a lot of adult students who had day jobs and were taking night classes. There's a lot of MBA programs that are intended as a part-time. There's law programs that do that. So it's not just an undergraduate question. That being said, I think this person can either spread out the college or back off ever so slightly on the freelancing work to something that's more sustainable and kind of get two birds with one stone, regardless of the approach. Either longer in school or fewer hours freelancing still gets you both. The longer you spend freelancing, the more contracts you have, the more clients you have, the better that looks for your professional trajectory down the line too.
Absolutely. I feel like I've seen a trend in the startup world of a lot of people either pausing college or like skipping a year in between high school and college. And they're like, yeah, I was working on side projects. And that's becoming a lot more prevalent, but it doesn't take away the very true fact that the degrees are still required at most jobs. It's going to be a barrier to you if you don't have those degrees. Maybe one day that won't be the case, but it certainly is today. So let's just break down how successful they currently are. So in the second line, I make more in the past 2 to 3 weeks than someone with 2 to 3 years of work experience. So does that change your analysis at all? If they are already ahead of where supposedly their degree would get them in the long run?
Yeah, so I was actually a little bit confused by this sentence because making more in 2 to 3 weeks, it doesn't tell me about how sustainable this is for them. Did they just land two very, affluent clients and that really pushed them along? Is this something they've been doing for a year and they've seen a growth in the need for their services? Have they only been at this for 2 weeks and somehow got some beginner's luck? I don't know enough about how viable this freelancing is for them over a long period of time. I think that's incredible for them that they're making, almost 2x. It looks like if you spread it out to a month's time period than somebody in the industry. But it's also so hard to say, like when you say someone in, with 2 to 3 years of experience in this work industry, I don't know what that means. Does that mean somebody that has 2 to 3 years of experience as an analyst? Is it somebody that's a researcher? Is it somebody that's on the implementation side? So it's really hard for me to say like, hey, this is awesome, this is sustainable, and go for it. Freelancing can be an amazing way to start branching into, developing your own small business or developing even a larger scale venture. It's just so hard. I don't know enough about them to say whether or not this is something that seems like it'll last.
Yeah, that was my exact thoughts too. I thought that was kind of a funny metric. And that's in 2 to 3 weeks, because you could have land two major gigs in a year and they happen to fall within the same 2 to 3 week period. So I think that's exactly right. What are we looking at in terms of the longevity of these contracts? Did you just lock this down and it will continue? Because then that's fantastic.
Yeah,
you're already well ahead of the game. If it's not, like, it's still validating, you're locking down these contracts. It means that you're on the right path for freelancing, but it does lead to a different story. It leads to a different analysis. So, Well, I certainly wish user puzzleheaded 802789 all the best. I'm glad that we can get an actual professor on here to share your insights. So Allie, thank you so much for being on the show. How can listeners connect with you?
Thanks, Luke. It was really great to be here. Hopefully this advice helped. I'm really curious to see what happens with this user in the future. If people want to connect with me, we're building out a lot of content and resources through our website, thescientificstartup.com. Outside of that, we're also on Twitter, always happy to connect and engage with entrepreneurs who either just want to talk about their experiences and have access to resources, or even kind of work one-on-one to really take their product from idea to launch.
Absolutely. I will echo that. Please do check out The Scientific Startup, especially if you are startup curious and don't know where to begin. It's a great place to dig in and get your feet wet in this area. You can learn so much from Allie's content. So thank you again so much for being on the show, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Backseat Startup. Please like and subscribe for more. This show is brought to you by Startup Founder Daily. We feature founders across our platforms for free. If you'd like to apply, head to the application form in the show notes.